My name's Senator, I'm 27, and I live in Seattle, working as an interior designer. My career is one of the few places where I feel like I matter. Like I'm more than just the supporting character in someone else's life. Because in my family, I've been invisible for as long as I can remember. This is not a story about abuse. It's a story about being constantly overlooked, quietly sidelined, and expected to serve while someone else gets the spotlight. And I'm finally ready to tell it. Keep reading, because what came next shocked everyone, especially me. Me? I'm the fallback plan. The fill-in. The silent support beam that no one notices until it cracks. When someone needs a break from the triplets, I'm called. When plans change last minute, I'm expected to adjust. If I'm tired, it's "you're young, you'll bounce back." If I say I have plans, there's a pause. A long one. And then some variation of, "but it's just family." Here's the truth. When you're quiet and reliable, people start to assume you don't need anything. That your time isn't as important. That your plans, your goals, your peace can be shifted, sacrificed, because you're the one who can handle it. But it doesn't feel like love after a while. It feels like being used. Let me take you back to what should have been a restful vacation. Our family trip to the Oregon coast last summer. I had requested time off from work well in advance. I was dreaming of ocean walks, little beach cafes, finally seeing an art exhibit I'd been putting off for years. My mom said she'd book the hotel this time, and I could finally relax. She said those exact words. "This time, you'll actually get to relax." But the second we arrived, I knew nothing had changed. If you like this story and it touches your heart, let us know in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to give us more motivation to create better content. Melissa and her husband got their own suite with a private ocean view balcony. Me? I got the kids' room. Literally. 3 6-year-olds. One cried over a missing teddy bear. One couldn't find the TV remote and screamed about it for 20 minutes. The third asked for snacks at midnight, repeatedly. I didn't sleep. I didn't rest. I didn't even breathe properly. The next morning, I tried to sneak away just an hour, just to see the art exhibit. Melissa texted me, "Where are you going?" "Josh is about to head out. Can you watch the kids for a bit?" That bit turned into almost 3 hours. And when I gently brought it up to Mom, she just said, "Sweetie, you're staying for free. It's only fair you help a little." I wanted to scream. Free? I wasn't freeloading. I paid for my own bus ticket. I took PTO to be here. I work. I have my own life. But every time I tried to speak up, the room went cold, like I'd broken some silent family rule. Don't make Melissa's life harder. That whole trip, I went to the beach once. One time. Meanwhile, Melissa posted spa selfies, coffee shots, even got a foot massage. Me? I wiped up cookie crumbs. Changed outfits after juice spills. Answered question after question. "And son, can I?" Like my name was a buzzer. I didn't explode. I didn't even argue. I just packed quietly when it was over and promised myself, never again. This would not be my life. I would not keep doing this. But I was wrong. Because this year, the same vacation got announced, just like nothing had happened. The family group chat lit up. Summer trip. We're all going together just like every year. No questions. No asking if I could come. No checking if I even wanted to. Just an itinerary and a role I never agreed to. I looked at the message. My hands started shaking. Did they really think I'd just go back to that? No sleep, no space, no say? That was the moment something in me snapped. I started typing. Because this time, I wasn't staying quiet. There's a special kind of exclusion that doesn't look like rejection on the surface. It's not being told no. It's just not being asked. Not being considered. Not being thought of when decisions are made. That's what it feels like to be the invisible one in a family. You're not kicked out. You're not ignored entirely. You're just used by default, while everyone else gets choices. That family group message, the one about the summer vacation, it might have seemed harmless to anyone on the outside. We're all going together, just like every year. There were smiley faces. Hotel details. A cheerful itinerary. But not once did anyone ask, "Son, are you free?" Or, Would you like to join? It wasn't an invitation. It was an assumption. The kind that wraps itself in warmth and tradition. So if you question it, you look ungrateful. And when I scrolled down that message thread, trying to find some sign that maybe they'd thought about me, I saw another text pop up, this time from Mom. This year's trip will be so much fun. Senator, you're riding with us again, right? I booked 2 rooms, one for the kids, one for us. I stared at the screen. My hands were shaking. That's when I realized they expected me to do it all over again. No questions. No apology for the last trip. No acknowledgement that I hadn't gotten even one peaceful moment on the beach. They had already made the plans. Already put me in the same box. Like I was an unpaid nanny with no schedule, no voice, no boundaries. That's the thing about exclusion. It's not always about being pushed out. Sometimes it's about being locked into a role so tightly that you can't breathe. Everyone else gets to grow, evolve, change. But you stay where they need you. Convenient, predictable. And here's what made it worse. They thought they were being kind. They believed they were including me, that letting me ride along, that giving me free lodging was a gift. But when you're not allowed to say no, then it was never a gift to begin with. This happens to so many people, especially in families. I've read stories from other women, other daughters, even youngest sons, all of them saying the same thing in different ways. I was always expected to say yes. I was never asked if I wanted to. And slowly, that kind of exclusion erodes your sense of self. You start second-guessing your own needs. You wonder if maybe you should help. After all, your sister's overwhelmed. Your parents are tired. You don't have kids. You're single. You've got more freedom. But that freedom doesn't mean you have less value, or less need for rest, for joy, for choice. So when Mom asked if I was riding with them again, I paused. I took a deep breath, and I typed back, "Thanks, Mom. But this year, I'll be driving myself. I've already booked my own room." 3 minutes later, my phone rang. It was her. "Son, what are you saying? Why would you book your own room? I already arranged everything." I kept my voice even. "Mom, I want my own space. Last year, I barely had a minute to myself. I need a real vacation." There was a long pause. Then, her voice dropped, that disappointed softness I've heard so many times. "But that means you're separating from the family. Melissa will have to handle the kids on her own. And who's going to help her when she needs a break?" I closed my eyes, steadying myself. "I'm not the nanny, Mom," I said, quiet but firm. "I work. I earn my own money. I'm an adult. And this time, I'm not repeating last year's mistake." The truth is, my entire 20s have felt like a balancing act, trying to keep the peace, trying not to rock the boat, trying to stay useful. And somewhere in all of that, I lost myself. That phone call? It was the first time I said the truth out loud. Not just to my mom, but to myself. Later that night, Melissa sent me a long text. It was emotional, almost poetic, about how tired she was, how much she needed support, how she felt betrayed, that I wasn't stepping up like before. She reminded me that I was single, no kids. So helping was the least I could do. And for a moment, guilt rushed in. It always does. That old whisper, "Don't be selfish. Family first." But then I read the last part of her message. She said, "I just wanted us all to have a fun family vacation, and now you're acting like you've been deeply wronged." That line hit differently, because she was right. I had been deeply wronged, but I had swallowed it for so long, I forgot I was allowed to say so. I didn't answer right away. I needed space. I needed clarity. A few days later, Dad called. His voice wasn't angry, just concerned. "Are you really planning to go separately?" "Yes, Dad," I told him. "I booked a nearby hotel. I'll join group activities, but I want to decide the rest myself." He was quiet. Then he said something I never expected. "Melissa's really upset, you know." And I replied, "I used to be upset too, Dad. Really upset, but no one seemed to notice." He didn't argue, just let out a long sigh. I get it. Maybe in that small moment he really did. When you finally say no to a pattern you've lived with for years, You don't just stop doing something, you disrupt an entire system. And families, they don't always like disruptions, even when they're necessary. After that phone call with my dad, after he sighed and quietly said, "I get it," I thought maybe, just maybe, the worst was behind me. But it was only the beginning. A few days later, Melissa sent a message in our group chat. It wasn't angry, it wasn't loud, but it cut just as deep. "Have your personal vacation, Senator, but don't expect the family to be happy if you skip everything just because you want freedom. You don't get to do that." That one line, you don't get to do that, sat in my chest like a stone. Because that's what it all came down to. To them, I didn't get to choose how I rested, or where I stayed, or how I showed up. To them, I didn't get to say no. I didn't reply, but quietly, I went into my hotel booking and added extra privacy protection. No sharing room details, no unexpected drop-ins. I mapped out a full schedule, a coastal craft workshop, a sunrise hike, and a trip to my favorite gallery. This vacation, it wasn't going to be about babysitting or being on standby. It was going to be about me. Because here's something I've learned. When you're always trying to keep the peace, you start losing yourself in other people's comfort zones. I had spent my 20s doing that, bending, smiling, swallowing my frustration. This time, I wasn't going to be the one who disappeared for the sake of harmony. The night before the trip, Mom sent a message. "We'll wait for you at the rest stop as planned. Even if you're not riding with us, I hope you'll still come." I didn't hate them. I still don't. I just couldn't keep playing the role that had been draining me for years. So, at dawn, I left early. The air was cool. My bag was packed. I played my favorite playlist on the drive, windows slightly down. For the first time, I was heading somewhere not as a helper, not as someone's extra hands, but just as me. I checked into my hotel peacefully. And not 10 minutes later, my phone rang. I didn't even need to look. I knew. Melissa. Her voice came through like frost. "Where are you?" "I just checked in," I answered calmly. "Private room." "Like I told you." She laughed, sharp, joyless. "Son, are you seriously doing this? Turning our family vacation into your personal retreat?" I paused, then said, "I'm still joining group things. But I also have the right to rest in my own way." "I can't believe this," she snapped. "I'm juggling 3 kids. Josh is always working, and Mom and Dad are exhausted. Who's supposed to help me if you disappear like this?" I steadied my breath. I'm not disappearing. I'm just not going to be an unpaid helper like last year. I'm not 19 anymore. That's when she said it, the line that had been sitting under everything all along. "But you're still single. No kids. No real responsibilities. You have so much free time, Senator. I just need a little help." Is that really too much to ask? It was like a guilt grenade, lobbed with precision. But this time, I didn't absorb it. "I'm not your backup plan for burnout," I said, my voice firm but low. "I have a job, a life. I need rest too." There was a long pause. Then she started crying. Not the soft kind. The kind that comes from months of exhaustion. "I'm so tired, Senator. I haven't had a decent night's sleep in ages. You're free, you're rested, and I'm stuck in this endless cycle. And you can't sacrifice even a little?" My heart ached. Of course it did. I love my sister. I know she's overwhelmed. But I also know this. Her struggle doesn't cancel out my boundaries. "You chose motherhood," I said gently. "I respect that. But you can't expect me to sacrifice my life just because you're unhappy with the one you chose." "So, it's all about you now?" she snapped. "No," I said. "It's about knowing my limits. And I've learned that if I don't protect them, no one else will." The call ended in silence. And I knew what would happen next, she'd tell my mom. The text would start. The storm would come. An hour later, Mom called. Her voice wasn't angry, but it carried that disappointed softness again. "Melissa is really hurt. Senator, couldn't you be just a little more flexible?" And there it was, that word. Flexible. The word I had bet myself into for years. Last year, I gave up my time, my energy, my sleep. I didn't complain. But you never asked how I was. You only asked if I could help Melissa. Mom was quiet. I love this family, I said. But I'm tired of being the one no one checks in on. If I'm only seen as a solution, not a person, then I don't want that version of family. You've changed, son, she said quietly. I've grown up, Mom. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I sat by the beach in the cool wind, watching the waves roll in. And for the first time, I felt whole. Not because I had hurt anyone, but because I had finally stopped hurting myself. I never thought I'd post anything about my family online. I'm not that person, the one who vents on social media or exposes personal details to strangers. I was raised to keep things in the family, to be discreet, respectful, quiet. But silence has a way of turning heavy, especially when it's full of things you've never said out loud, not because they weren't true, but because you didn't think anyone would care. After the calls from Melissa, after Mom's soft disappointment, after Dad's sigh and that weighty pause, I felt like I was drowning in guilt for simply asking to be treated like a person with needs. I needed air, not validation, just clarity. So, I made a Reddit account. Anonymous. No names, no cities, no specifics. Just one post. I titled it something simple. Am I wrong for wanting a real vacation for myself? And then I told the truth. I wrote about the Oregon coast trip, how I had looked forward to it, how I had to sleep with 3 kids while my sister got a private suite, how every time I tried to rest, I was asked to help, how my family believed that because I was single and child-free, I must be available, always. I was honest, but respectful. I didn't name anyone. I didn't lash out. I just told it how it was. Then I closed the app and went to bed. What I didn't expect. Waking up the next morning to hundreds of responses. Hundreds of strangers who had read my story and understood it. Some said I was too patient. Others told me I should have drawn the line years ago. And many said they'd lived through the same thing. Sisters expected to step in. Daughters treated like built-in babysitters. The single one in the family who always got the short end of the stick because she had more time. There was something both comforting and heartbreaking about it. I wasn't alone, but neither were they. And that meant this problem, this quiet form of emotional labor, was so much bigger than me. I read every comment. Every single one. And I cried. Not because I was sad, though I was, but because for the first time, I felt seen. And then something I never imagined happened. Melissa saw the post. She called me the next morning, 6 a.m. I was on the hotel balcony, sipping my coffee, watching the sky change color. I should have known it wouldn't stay anonymous forever. Her voice came through like ice. Did you write that? I didn't panic. I just asked, you recognized it was me? How could I not? She snapped. You think you're anonymous? You described everything. People are calling me selfish now. I stayed quiet for a moment. Then I said, I didn't make anyone say anything, Melissa. I wrote the truth. People reacted to it. And that's when she exploded. You destroyed my image. Senator, you humiliated me in front of thousands. That was the moment I realized what she really cared about. It wasn't how I felt. It wasn't how unfairly I'd been treated. It was her image. To her, it was about appearances, not people. She cried. But this time, it wasn't sadness. It was fury. She wasn't hurt because I was in pain. She was hurt because someone had seen it. And that's when Mom messaged me. Did you really post that about our family? I answered simply, yes. Because if I didn't speak up, no one would have listened. At first, she was angry. Said, I was ungrateful. That I hurt my sister. But then, as she started reading, not just the post, the comments, strangers, thousands of miles away, giving a perspective she had never considered. That night, she called me again. Her voice softer, slower. I didn't think people would see it that way. I thought you were exaggerating. I asked her gently, how many times have I exaggerated, Mom? Or did I just finally speak in a way that couldn't be ignored? She didn't answer. A few days later, Dad called. He kept it brief, like always. We talked to your sister. We all need to have a proper conversation. But I just wanted to say I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. About everything. I was stunned. I couldn't even remember the last time I'd heard my dad say sorry. Not about something real. Then, unexpectedly, I got a message from Josh, Melissa's husband. I'm sorry for letting you be taken advantage of. I'm talking to Melissa. I think she needs to change. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt like someone in the family finally had my back. Not out of obligation, not to avoid conflict, but because he saw the truth. The truth has a way of shaking everything loose. It doesn't always fix things right away, but it breaks the surface. And once the surface breaks, there's no going back to pretending. 2 days after my Reddit post went viral, Mom called again. Her voice wasn't angry this time, it was heavy. Tired in a different way. Son, she said, the vacation's canceled. I froze, not out of shock, but from the strange swirl of emotions that came with those words. Relief, sadness, guilt, a little ache. I had spent so long longing for a vacation that was mine. A trip where I wouldn't be cornered into a role I never agreed to. And now, instead of getting that rest, I had pulled the thread that unraveled the whole thing. But somewhere inside, I knew this unraveling needed to happen. Mom went quiet for a moment before continuing. Since your post, Melissa hasn't really spoken to anyone. Josh left to stay with his parents in Olympia. Your dad and we need time to reflect. That sentence told me more than I expected. This wasn't just about one vacation. It was about everything that had been swept under the rug for years. The roles, the guilt, the imbalance. That night, I got a message from Josh. I'd like to meet. Just you and me. We met at a small cafe not far from my hotel. When he arrived, he looked exhausted, but there was something new in his eyes, something honest. He didn't dodge. He didn't sugarcoat. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up, he said as soon as we sat down. I knew Melissa had control issues, but I didn't realize how far it had gone. I didn't need to ask what he meant. I knew, but I still asked gently. And what now? Josh sighed. She told me she gave you money for helping. That she left envelopes. That she covered everything. I let out a small, dry laugh. If she did, she left them for someone else. I never saw a dime. Josh nodded. I asked her directly. She admitted she only gave you money for pizza a few times. The rest she kept. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just deeply disappointed. Josh leaned forward. I love Melissa, but I won't let her walk over you anymore. She's starting therapy. I'm asking her to recalculate everything and pay you back. And apologize. Properly. I didn't answer right away. My mother's words echoed in my mind. In a family, we have to be the one who bends. But this wasn't bending. This was finally being seen. The next morning, Melissa showed up at my hotel. Her eyes were red. Josh stood behind her, arms crossed, but not angry. Protective, maybe. Steady. Melissa's voice was so soft I almost didn't catch it. I'm sorry, she said, for taking advantage of your kindness, for lying, for turning a family trip into a way to control you. She held out an envelope. This is what I owe you. Every cent. Josh made me recalculate it all. I didn't even open it. I just looked at her and asked, do you think things can ever go back to how they were? She shook her head. No. And I think that's a good thing. It wasn't a dramatic moment. No hugging montage. Just two sisters, one trying to face herself, the other finally stepping out of the background. I need help, she added. Josh asked me to start seeing a therapist. I agreed. I don't know if I can fix everything, but I stopped her gently. You don't have to fix everything in one day. But if you start by respecting people, especially the quiet ones, that's already more than enough. She nodded. And for the first time, Melissa didn't look like the commanding older sister. She looked like a woman who finally saw the damage and wanted to change. That vacation never happened. Not the way it was planned. But what I got was more than a beach or a gallery visit. I got something real, clarity, accountability, the start of something different. 3 weeks later, Dad called. Your mom and I want to take you to dinner. The Pines. Saturday. Just us. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to go, but because I needed to know it wouldn't be performative. But I nodded anyway, because maybe, just maybe, we all needed a dinner with no blame. No guilt. Just a beginning. When I walked into the restaurant that night, Mom stood up first. She pulled out a chair for me. She had never done that before. Dad looked nervous, like he was delivering a speech he'd practiced in the mirror. Before the appetizers even came, Mom said softly, "We're sorry. For minimizing your feelings. For giving you burdens you didn't ask for." I looked at her, and for the first time she didn't feel like the adult who held all the power. She felt like a person. Honest. Smaller. Not in stature, but in the way she finally spoke from the heart. "We're planning another trip," Dad added. "This time, you can travel separately. Stay wherever you want. No one will ask you to babysit. We promise." I nodded. Slowly. "What about Melissa?" Mom glanced at Dad, then said, "She's in counseling. Josh convinced her. She's starting to realize some things." I didn't respond right away. I thought about all the years I'd compromised. The times I said yes while everything in me screamed no. And for a moment, I let myself believe them. Not blindly, but cautiously. Hopefully. "Okay," I said. "I'll go. But I'm driving myself. Booking my own room. And if anyone tries to put me back in that role, I'll leave." No warning. They both nodded. A week later, the family group chat lit up again. New name. Beach trip. Reset version. Melissa only sent smiley emojis. No instructions. No passive-aggressive notes. I booked a hotel half a mile away. Close enough for dinners. Far enough for peace. And this time, no one questioned it. This time it really was a vacation. Not because everything was perfect, but because I finally made it mine. A week before the trip, I booked my hotel, half a mile from the family's place. Far enough to have privacy, close enough to join group dinners or beach walks if I felt like it. I sent the details to no one, not even Mom. And guess what? No one asked. No one argued. No one guilt-tripped me about driving separately or doing my own thing. It was strange at first, the silence. The absence of those subtle pressures. No text from Mom asking if I was packed. No last-minute favors from Melissa. For once, I was allowed to show up on my terms. On the morning of departure, I woke up early, made a fresh cup of coffee, packed my car with care, and drove toward the coast with the sun just beginning to rise. The music played softly. The sky slowly warmed. And in that quiet drive, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom. When I arrived at my hotel, I checked in and asked the front desk not to share my room information with anyone except law enforcement in case of emergency. The receptionist smiled and nodded. "A lot of guests do that," she said. I smiled back. That's good to hear. Because I had learned something vital. Setting boundaries isn't a declaration of war. It's a form of self-respect. That afternoon, I joined the family at a beachside restaurant. Everyone was there, Mom, Dad, Josh, the boys, and Melissa. But this time, she wasn't giving orders. She wasn't frazzled or frustrated. Because this time she brought help. A hired nanny, Ava. Young, energetic, calm. The kind of person who handled sticky hands and snack demands like a pro. Ava wasn't a placeholder or a sibling. She was hired. And that made all the difference. "Thank you for coming," Melissa said quietly when she saw me. No strings attached. No extra expectations. I nodded. Maybe, just maybe, something was changing. The meal was peaceful. No one asked me to cut anyone's food. No one asked me to just run to the bathroom with the kids. I sat next to Dad and told him about a design project I was working on, a boutique hotel with custom lighting plans. And for the first time, he listened fully. Like what I said mattered just as much as anything Melissa ever shared. After dinner, I walked back to my hotel alone. No one followed. No one texted. No one tried to coax me into just one little favor. And when I opened the door to my room, I stood in the doorway for a moment, letting the silence wrap around me. It felt like home, like peace. The next morning, I woke to soft light filtering through the curtains. No tiny hands banging on my door. No early morning chaos. I made coffee, played soft music, sat on the balcony with a book I'd just bought, and let time pass without being needed. That's something we don't talk about enough. How rare it is to not be needed. How strange it feels to have nothing expected of you. For someone like me, it was revolutionary. After the hotel's breakfast buffet, I got a text from Mom. "We're heading to the seaside park this afternoon. Want to join?" I replied simply, "I'll come by later if I finish up on my end." No promises. No guilt. Just a choice. Around 10 a.m., I finally did what I had wanted to do last year. I visited the art gallery I'd missed. I wandered between paintings, got lost in brushstrokes and textures. Took my time. This was mine. As I was leaving, planning to grab a coffee by the beach, my phone buzzed. It was Ava, the nanny. "Hi, Senator, I'm sorry to call. Melissa asked me to see if you could watch the boys for about 15 minutes. She said it's urgent." There it was, that chill I hadn't felt in days. The creeping sense of being pulled back in. But I took a deep breath and replied gently, "Ava, I think you're great, but I'm not the babysitter. If Melissa has something urgent, she should have planned ahead or made other arrangements." Ava sounded apologetic. "I understand. I'm just doing what she asked." "You're doing your job," I said. "Thanks for letting me know." I hung up, then immediately texted Josh. "Your sister is trying to pass the kids off to me again. This time through Ava." 2 minutes later, Josh called. His voice tight, frustrated. "Thank you for telling me. I'll take care of it." That afternoon, when I arrived a little late to the park, the energy had shifted. Melissa didn't look at me. Josh was off playing soccer with the boys. Mom came over quietly and handed me a lemonade. "We heard what happened earlier." "I'm sorry." Melissa should have known better. I nodded. I wasn't there to argue. I was there to live. Without guilt, without blame. Later, while everyone rested under the trees, Melissa finally spoke. Not defensive. Not snide. Just soft. "Thank you for not making a scene earlier." I looked at her, calm and clear. I don't need to raise my voice for someone to realize what shouldn't be done. Josh nodded silently beside her. And from that point on, no one brought up just a few minutes of help again. The next few days passed like water. Peaceful, gentle, mine. I took long walks alone, visited seaside cafes, even joined a local artist for an outdoor painting session. When the family had group activities, a beach barbecue, the aquarium, a dinner, I joined only when I wanted to. Not out of pressure, not to keep things smooth, but because I chose to. That was the difference. I wish I could tell you there was a dramatic, full-circle ending. That my family suddenly transformed overnight, and we all cried over pancakes and forgave everything. But that's not how real change works. At least, not in my family. Real change is quieter. It shows up in pauses. In space. In small shifts that you notice only when you stop looking for grand gestures. After the beach trip, I went back to work. Back to my design studio. Back to coffee-fueled deadlines and sketches taped to whiteboards. Everything slipped back into its usual rhythm. But inside, something had changed. One weekday afternoon, while organizing drafts for a hotel project, I opened an email from Josh. The subject line read, "Update on Melissa." I almost didn't open it. I wasn't sure I wanted to know. But I did. The message began simply. "I took Melissa to her first therapy session this morning." He told me it wasn't easy, that she fidgeted through half of it and fought the urge to defend herself every few minutes. But then the therapist said something that stopped her. "Being a mother doesn't mean losing your personhood," the therapist said, "but it also doesn't give you the right to assign your exhaustion to other people." Josh told me Melissa cried. Not with anger this time, but because she finally saw it, how deeply she'd used motherhood as a reason to control. Especially me. He ended the email with this line. "I'm sorry it got this far, but thank you. If you hadn't stood your ground, Melissa might never have looked at herself." I didn't reply right away. Not because I was upset, but because I needed to sit with it. That's the thing about emotional labor. When you stop carrying it, you don't just drop it and walk away. You feel the echo of it for a while, like a limb that was overused and is finally at rest. 2 weeks later, I got a text from Melissa. She asked if I'd meet her for lunch. I hesitated, but I agreed. We met at a small cafe near a park she used to take the boys to. This time, she was alone. No kids. No chaos. Just her. She was on time. She looked tired, but not frazzled. There was a quietness to her. Not silence, humility. She didn't launch into excuses. She didn't ask for anything. Instead, she began like this. "I've been to 4 sessions so far," she said. "And I'm starting to realize I've never really listened to anyone. Not Josh. Not mom or dad. And especially not you." She talked about how being the oldest meant stepping into responsibility early. How she thought it was normal to expect the same from me. How panic shaped her parenting. And how, when she needed help, she demanded it instead of asking. I nodded lightly. I listened. And then I said, "I understand. But understanding doesn't mean I should have accepted it." Melissa nodded. "You shouldn't have," she said. "I'm not asking for help anymore. Josh hired Ava full-time. She'll help with school runs. I'm learning to do less to let go." She gave me a small, hopeful smile. "I just hope one day you'll see that I'm really trying." I looked at her for a long time, and what I saw was someone slowly unraveling their old armor. Someone trying to stop being the loudest voice and learn how to hear others instead. From that day on, things didn't flip, but they flowed. Mom started texting me just to say, "Are you free?" Not, "Can you help?" Dad sent me pictures of the new bench he built, asking for design ideas, not asking me to do it for him. And Melissa? She stopped defaulting to me. Sometimes she slipped. Old habits don't vanish overnight, but she caught herself. And when she didn't, I knew how to speak up without apologizing for it. I kept my healthy distance. Not out of bitterness, but because I was rebuilding a bridge, one with clearer boundaries, stronger beams, and only wide enough for 2 people to meet halfway. One afternoon in early fall, I got a handwritten card from Melissa. 1 sentence. No flourish. "Thank you for not staying silent forever." I held it for a while. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because I finally knew this wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new one. One where I wasn't the only person doing the listening. About a month after that, something unexpected happened. I got a message on Instagram. It was from Emily, the woman who worked at the little bookstore on the corner. The one who always remembered my favorite author. Who always greeted me with a quiet smile and gentle recommendations. Her message read, "I don't know if it's coincidence or fate, but I read that Reddit post. And I knew it was you." My heart skipped. Not from fear, but because I hadn't expected anyone from my real life to see that version of me. I messaged back. I guess the post traveled farther than I thought. She replied almost instantly. "It did." Because it was real. And because so many of us have been you in our own families, but never found the words. We met the following weekend at an outdoor art exhibit. No pressure. Just 2 people walking side by side, talking about books, boundaries, and becoming your own person without apology. She didn't try to fix me. I didn't try to explain myself. We just existed with presence and respect. And maybe, just maybe, that's where healing begins. The Heart of Sen's story isn't just about family. It's about identity, self-worth, and the quiet power of boundaries. For years, she said yes out of love, habit, and guilt. But love without limits isn't love, it's sacrifice. Many of us, especially women, fall into this unspoken role of emotional caretaker, constantly giving without being asked how we're doing. The lesson here is clear. Being dependable doesn't mean being disposable. When Sen finally spoke up, it caused conflict, yes, but it also created space for truth, healing, and mutual respect to grow. Her journey reminds us that setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out. It's about letting yourself in. Your needs matter. Your voice matters. And the people who truly care about you will learn how to hear it. If you've ever felt like the background character in your own life, maybe it's time to write yourself into the lead. Have you ever had to reclaim your boundaries with family or friends? Share your story below. Someone out there needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe for more real, human stories about healing, identity, and the courage to choose yourself. And if this spoke to you, please share it forward. You never know who's waiting to feel seen.